What's up, everybody? God Pepper here. And today I'm going to be sharing some dreams with you that God has shared me or, given me. So let me just lay out a few things real quick just to show you guys who I am because, of course, my first video was just my loadout, I guess you can call it. And so now I'm going to just share with you what I believe spiritually, religiously, whatever. So I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus died and rose again, saved us from all our sins. And so, yeah, that's what I believe. I do not believe in a pre-trib rapture. I don't. I don't discourage anyone who believes in that. And if you believe in that and you want to follow me and talk and discuss, I'm all about it. I mean, I'm not one to easily get offended over difference in opinions or views. So I like to also state that as well. That even if you believe in a pre-trib rapture, I have no problem discussing it with you in a responsible adult way. So if you feel you want to tell me what you believe, then go ahead. By all means, I have no problem with you doing that. But regardless, I just don't personally believe in a pre-trib rapture. So I want to get that out of the way now because if you listen to my talks, videos, and discussions, you'll start to see that come up quite a bit. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to tell you, like, no, this is how it's going to be, because in the end, we all don't know when it's going to be. God says no one knows the day nor the hour. So regardless, the very first dream I ever had of the end times that I can remember was when I was very little. I was probably 4 or 5. And the dream was my Nana's complex. And it was all underwater. And the water had to at least be. I mean, the water was so high, the street itself was completely covered, and it was almost up to people's roofs. And these houses mostly are one story because they're all one story houses. And of course, I live in Florida. If you haven't watched my first video, I live in Florida. So a lot of houses when they're subdivisions are, at least the ones where she lives are all one story. There's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, there are a lot of one story, big, huge one story houses. And I remember when I was really young, I had a dream where her whole neighborhood was flooded, and cars were like floating, or some were. Trees were in other people's houses, like trees just like almost like being tossed into people's roofs through their roofs. And as a kid, I didn't really know what to think of that. I mean, because it's God didn't show it happening, but He showed me the aftermath of what had happened, and so that was really interesting that God showed me that at such a young age when I had never asked for it, didn't even know it was a prophetic dream or maybe like a warning until years later when I really came to understood who God was. So with all that being said, I lived in Las Vegas for a number of years. So I lived in Florida and Las Vegas. So Nevada is where Las Vegas is, and Florida, I live in Florida, somewhere central Florida. I don't want to say specifically where, but in Las Vegas, I lived for a lot of years, and it was a home to me, and it was something I called home. And around 2018, October 7th, 2018 is when I first had my real dreams about the ending of America or the burning of America. And I can only state and base all this off of what God has shown me in my dreams. So, if you want to sit here and say that what I'm saying isn't true, or maybe you don't think it is, just understand that I'm only saying this stuff based off of what God has shown me in my dreams, and I know that God has shown me. So, the very, very first dream I ever had about America being attacked was October 7th, 2018. It may have been the 8th, but I like to just involve the dates because I feel like it's kind of important. And I was at my friend's house, and this friend lived in Las Vegas, so it seems appropriate that I was at my friend's house. And me, her, and her dad were all sitting there chilling in the living room, and all of a sudden we heard this boom, and it was loud. Like didn't compare, but it was just so loud. It was just like it sounded like a bomb, you know what I mean? And we all looked at each other with these surprised faces, like, what in the world was that? And so we all get up, and her dad opens the sliding glass door to the back door, the sliding glass back door, and then we see these Russian fighter jets flying over the city, and we're just hearing these bombs every once in a while. It wasn't all the time, but it was like boom, and you hear like boom, and it wasn't all the time. It wasn't a complete bombardment. It was like they were specifically hitting targets. It wasn't like it was just an all-out bombardment. It was like, no, we're specifically hitting certain targets that need to be destroyed almost. So it was very tactical. It wasn't like in England where back in World War II they just bombed the cities. It wasn't like that. So that was the very first dream. And at the time, now let me state some background about me so you guys can know who I am to some degree. I like some anonymity, but who I am is, I'm a prepper, and clearly God prepper, but also I personally have always believed that God has given me an attention or a wanting to understand Armageddon in a sense. Like I don't believe the attack on America is Armageddon, but I've always been really interested in the end times, and for whatever reason, it's been a huge part or desire to learn about in my life. I don't know why. I've since a little kid, I've always found it very interesting. The end of the world, Armageddon, and all that craziness. So I've always been interested in that, and I've always been into guns. And I've had a crazy life, and I'll share my testimony eventually. Not now, but so the second dream I had was a very short dream, and I was in like an alleyway, and it almost kind of reminded me of New York. Now, I haven't been in New York in a long time, so it won't be completely accurate. But you know how like New York has those like really narrow alleyways, and you could probably fit a vehicle or two in them. But there's certain alleyways in New York where they're kind of very narrow, just enough to fit enough people in it if you really needed to. And this dream was like I saw this vehicle, and of course I could tell it was armored, but I just couldn't tell exactly who or what it was. And it was an armored vehicle, and it was driving down this long alleyway, and I couldn't quite see. And all of a sudden, my vision supernaturally zoomed in, and I could see who and what it was, and it was an anti-personnel armored vehicle. If you don't know what that is, because I know there's plenty of people out there who don't know anything about the military, anything about weaponry, it's basically no, it's not ACP, is it? Man, I don't remember. I don't remember the Russian version of it. But basically, it's this anti-personnel vehicle that can also be submerged to some degree in water. So it's an amphibious vehicle, and it can fit about I think anywhere from 10 to 8 people in the back. But these Russian soldiers are walking on the sides of the vehicle, and it was just coming down this alleyway, very slow, just at a normal, just walking pace. And I knew they were Russian. And once again, I don't have any connection with Russia or Russians, and I don't really know what their military looks like. And I didn't add this earlier, but I didn't know what those jets were in the first dream. I had to actually look up Russian jet. I knew they were Russian, but I didn't actually know that at the time. So when I woke up, I had to actually look it up, and I saw the exact picture, and I'll add that picture in there because it was the exact plane that was bombing Las Vegas at the time. The third dream I had was when for whatever reason, I don't know the context of this dream, so forgive me, guys. If you have any insight, if you have any dreams that relate to mine in some degree, please feel free to share them. But the third dream I had, I think I'm on the third dream, I might be on the fourth, I don't know, was I was on this transport cargo ship. It was a cargo container ship, almost like the one you see in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first game, and it's like really rainy. If you've ever played Call of Duty, the first Modern Warfare, go check out that gameplay footage because this is kind of what that reminded me of. And once again, I prayed for God to show me this kind of stuff. So and he delivered for sure. 1 week full of this stuff. And so I was in all black tactical gear. Once again, don't know what I'm doing on this ship. And I'm in the captain's quarters, and it's a full moon out. It's complete pitch black. I mean, no, I'm sorry. It's a complete full moon, and I'm in this dark black outfit, and I'm aiming at this specific door. Once again, I don't know why, but I am. And to set up the scenario as well, I'm laying down actually, which of course this is still kind of weird, but I'm laying down and I'm pointing at this door with my AR-15 or, military, so M4. And there's these big, huge windows in the captain's quarter, and the moonlight's shining through them. But the moonlight, the way it's shooting through the windows, it's casting a shadow over me. At least this is what was happening in the dream. I can't be for sure if that would actually work or not, but in the dream, it was this the moonlight was at a certain angle where it was casting a shadow over me. So including my pitch black gear, I had this shadow over me. And so I'm staring at this doorway, and all of a sudden, some dude comes in with an AK, and he just walks through, and he's looking, and the moonlight lights his face up, and I see his face, and I have this belly, internal belly feeling. Like you ever had that, like in real life, where like God tells you, "Hey, do not do that," or "Don't go there." Like I don't know where everyone's walk is spiritually, but I've had that where it almost comes up from your belly, and it's like, hey, don't do that or don't go there. And what this told me in the dream, this all happened in the dream. I felt that belly feeling, and it was like a voice came up from my belly and said, don't hurt him. He's not an enemy, or he's friendly. Don't hurt him. And he just walks by, and of course, if anyone knows anything about room clearing, which I don't assume you do, but if you do, you know that you don't send one guy in before everybody else. That doesn't make any sense. So once again, this is God's hand in this end time dream. And I know this was him. This was God doing that. So one guy goes through. The rest of his team don't even realize that he's left them. You know what I mean? He's left and they don't realize it because God's blinded their eyes. Then these guys enter the room because they're going to room clear this captain's quarters. And I just light them up. And I'm shooting at the first couple of guys entering the room. But once again, this is where God blinds our enemy's eyes. He blinds their eyes, and I know this because they all start running in the room faster. And the reason is they thought they were being shot from the outside, so they were trying to get in the captain's quarters to get cover, not realizing I was in that room shooting them, so they were all running to their death. And I know that might seem dark or even gritty to some Christians who aren't into tactical stuff, military, civilian prepper and whatever. I know there's a lot of Christians who aren't like that. So if this is like a little extreme, then you can skip this stream. But this is something God showed me, and not to be a jerk, but read your Old Testament. There was tons of death and murder and killing, and God being on the side of Israel in war. So if you think that killing in war is unjust, then look at everything the Israelites did to protect themselves. So, yeah. God blinded these Russian soldiers' eyes and ears to think that they were being shot from outside to run into their death. So, which was very interesting. And I was thinking, wow, yeah, God's really going to move in these end times. When these things are going on, he's going to protect his children, and he's really going to do things that we haven't seen him do before, like something like that, which was really mind-blowing to me at the time. I was mind-blown by that dream because I was just like, wow, like I can't believe God would do something like that. Like it just surprised me. Not that I was bothered by it, but just like, wow, like I can't believe that would happen. So those are the three most interesting dreams that stand out. But a fourth dream I had was, this is really interesting because let me state something. I love Japan. I've never been there, but I love Japanese culture. I love Japanese people. So my heart really breaks to think about this, but I have to say it because, I feel God's presence right now as I'm doing this video. So I gotta be honest about this. And it breaks my heart because I love Japanese culture and I love Japan and I want to visit there one day. But the sad thing is I had a dream where I was in our normal Army BDUs, which of course, if you don't know, United States, because some people just may not know. United States, I was in our BDUs, which of course, if everyone knows the BDUs at the time that I had this dream, were still the ugly camouflage, that blends into nothing, as I'm sure all of you know, or don't know, I don't know. It just doesn't blend into nothing. It don't work. Unless you're blending into a gray rock or a gray outcrop, then you're not going to blend in. Like, it just doesn't blend into nothing. But we were wearing these, and I was on a military base, don't know where, probably irrelevant, pretty much. And, there was, like, no weapons around. There was a few armored vehicles, but those didn't even have weapons. And in the dream, I was noticing this, and I was thinking to myself, like, where's all the M4s? where's the weaponry? I mean, there's like no, like there's planes, there's armored vehicles, there's no weapons anywhere. None anywhere. No ammo anywhere. Don't know why, but there wasn't any at all. And all of a sudden, this old World War II brown plane flies overhead, and everyone's looking at this plane like, what in the hell? Because like for one, no plane flies over a military base unless it's our military. And let alone a World War II plane. Like what? That's very weird. But all of a sudden, we hear these screaming. I mean, just a shriek in unison of thousands of people running after us. And all of a sudden, I look down from the plane, and there's these Japanese soldiers, thousands of them, charging at all of us. And we're just like 10, 15 people that's the only U.S. personnel I've seen in this dream is like 10 to 15 people on this U.S. base. 10 to 15, maybe not even that. Just in the dream. And there was thousands of Japanese people running at us. And the reason why is because I'm a historian to some degree, and I know what Japanese World War II outfits look like. And they were wearing these khaki brown Japanese World War II outfits. And they had bolt action rifles. And they were charging us, and we were powerless. We couldn't do nothing. And this huge fight ensues because there's thousands of them and only a couple of us. And we're fighting tooth and nail. And finally, one dies and falls over in front of me. And I pick up his bolt action rifle and I start shooting. And I only get off 3 shots, and I just see waves of Japanese soldiers coming at us. And I literally throw the rifle down on the ground and turn around and run because we were just so outnumbered. And only one person got off that base with me because in the dream we got off the base. I jumped in my Mustang, which at the time I owned a Mustang, a red Mustang. We jumped in and we drove off into the mountains in that dream. But in that dream, only one person got off that base with me. That's how severe the attack was. And I think that's God showing us that we're really unprepared. More unprepared than that army was, because that army only had, like, there was thousands of soldiers with only a couple having guns at a time. It was just like back in the Russians, when the Russians were the USSR and they were fighting Germany. They didn't have enough guns and ammo, so like one person would carry ammo, one person would carry a gun. And that's kind of like what it was for these Japanese. And like I said, it hurts me to think that the Japanese would actually attack us, but God's shown me that they will attack us at one point, just like the Russians. One thing I can't say is I haven't seen North Korea, and I haven't seen China, which is very interesting because all the news has been pointing to China and North Korea, and I honestly think that's a ruse, only because God hasn't shown me Chinese soldiers or North Korean, sorry. So I think the whole North Korean and Chinese thing is a ruse. I might be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not some prophet of God. I don't really know, but I can only tell you from what God has shown me, and I've never seen Chinese or South Korean or North Korean. Gosh dang it! Why do I keep doing that? Now, I have had a dream where I was in, once again, normal Army BDUs, but we were in the hills of North Korea. There were these tunnels. Now, I don't know if there's any tunnels in North Korea or South Korea, but we were in these hidden covered tunnels, and we were clearing these tunnels. They almost remind me of the scene from Call of Duty Black Ops 1 when it was like Vietnam era, and they were in these foxholes and these tunnels clearing them out. That's almost what it reminded me of, but I knew we were in North Korea. So I haven't had a dream of North Korea attacking us, but I have had a dream of U.S. military, me being there as well, in North Korean tunnels. Why I don't know, where I don't know, except that it was in North Korea, and the tunnel exploded on us, and it started collapsing, and it was me and one other dude there, and we were running to get out of the tunnel. So don't really know what that really is or represents, and don't know if that's real or not, but that's a dream I've had as well. And I might have one more dream that I'm not sharing, and I don't remember exactly now, but so yeah, that's been my dreams. I think I listed 4 or 5 dreams in this one, so that's all I've got for right now. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm definitely going to post a lot more in terms of guns, gear. Once again, God Prepper, I'm balling on a budget, so if you guys want any tips, or if you want to give me some tips, listen, I'm happy with constructive criticism. I'm happy with people telling me what they think I should do or what they should think I shouldn't do. I'm more than happy to give tips and get tips. So, God Prepper, I'm out.